Welcome back to another lecture of Rental Pathshala, where we help you understand and learn dental history better and easy. And this video is a continuation of the Express Revision course for periodontics. And before we get started, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit on the bell icon so that you don't miss any of our exciting videos. And also you can check out the link in the description box below for the notes of this particular video. And if you are looking for more interesting notes, you can check out our website www.xtooth.com. So guys, let's get started with the today's topic, which is the resective osseous surgery. So before starting with the resective osseous surgery, we have already studied that we have the vertical defects. In the vertical defects, we classify the vertical defects like a class 1 defect, or we classify the walls defect like 3-wall defect. So the first one we talked about was the 3-wall defect. So what do we mean by the term 3-wall defect? So guys, the term 3-wall defect means that there are 3 walls present. So if you can see here that there are 4 walls, one which is in the blue, then one which is in the green, then guys we have one in the red and one in the orange color. So like that, a tooth is surrounded by the 4 walls from each sides. So a 3-wall defect guys means that 3 walls are present in that particular tooth. Say suppose if this one wall is missing, right? So if we say that this one wall is missing, so this means that there are 3 walls which are present. So this particular situation guys, we call it a 3-wall defect. So a 3-wall defect means 3 walls are present, that means plus. Always say walls, when we are talking about the wall defect, say 3 walls are plus, that means 3 walls are present. Say suppose if 3 walls are present, that means we can regenerate 1 wall. So in order to understand this, that imagine this tooth is you and you are standing in a room. So there are 4 walls, right? 1, 2, 3 and here is the 4th one. Say suppose if there is no, once you get up in the room, you see that 1 wall is missing in that room. So it's easy to reconstruct 1 wall if we compare it with the 2 wall, 3 and 1 wall defect. So suppose there is a 2 wall defect, that means the 2 walls are missing. Now the situation can be guys like this. So if you can see here, 2 walls in this particular teeth surrounding are absent and 2 walls are present. So basically when the 2 walls are present, that means 2 walls are present, and rest out of the 4, 2 walls are present, that means 2 walls are missing. So it is the regeneration rate if we compare of 3 wall and the 2 wall defect. Now 2 wall defect, the regeneration rate, if the regeneration rate for 3 wall defect is say 100%, then the regeneration for 2 wall defect becomes 50%. So basically not all of the case will go for regeneration, only the defect which are narrow and deep, because we can put the graft material right inside it. But if it is shallow and wide, say, we cannot put the graft, so we cannot go for the regeneration procedure. In that case, we have to go for the resective surgery, which is the topic of the today's lecture. So we will be talking about the regenerative as well. We will be talking about the GTR procedure guys. But for now, we are talking about the resective osseous surgery. Say suppose, see guys, say suppose if the defect is, 2 wall defect is a wide and a shallow, that means we can put a graft material in here. But wide and narrow, I'm sorry. But if the defect is shallow and wide, so if the defect is shallow and it is wider, we cannot put any graft here, it won't stay. So it will go for a resective surgery. Or say guys, this was the situation. So we have talked about the defects. So if 3 wall defect is present, that means 3 walls are present. That means we can go for the regenerative procedure. But if 2 wall shallow and wide defect are present guys, that means we have to go for the resective surgery, because the shallow wide defect we cannot do the regenerative procedure. So 2 wall defect is, we cannot do all the things for a 2 wall defect. So it is either 50% regenerative, not whole of this is regenerative. So guys, this particular situation is a vertical 2 wall defect. Let's just write it here. This is a 2 wall defect, which is the vertical one. So this is a vertical 2 wall defect. That means 2 walls are present, 2 walls are present. That means this. So this particular situation wherein 2 walls are present will be a 2 wall defect. So in this particular kind of situation, you can see this is, we have to keep missing a 1 wall guys. So this particular situation becomes a 3-wall defect, right? 3-wall defect. Now again, if we take one more situation, guys, wherein we are going to missing the rest of the walls. Say suppose this particular situation. Now in this particular situation, we have to make one more wall missing, guys. So say suppose 1 wall defect if we talk about. That means that only 1 wall is present. So this particular situation is a 1 wall defect. That means only 1 wall is present. Always see the wall defect. I have told you that always see the defects like it is present. So if 1 wall is present, then nothing can be done. Say suppose if you are standing in a room and there is only 1 wall, what you have to do is you think of making it a flat floor so that you can reconstruct a nice room later on. So for an easy purpose, you are going to break this wall as well. So this is again a resective procedure. So wherein we cannot regenerate it. So a 1 wall defect again will go for a resective surgery. Or say guys, the architecture of the tooth. So understand this, that suppose say this is these are the tooth. So what is a positive architecture? First of all, this is just a diagrammatic representation, guys. Say suppose, let's make it from the red. Say suppose we are talking about the bone here. So normally what happens, the interdental bone is like this. So you see that interdental bone, when interdental bone is present, we call it pyramid interdental bone. You can see we call it a positive architecture, guys. That means this is an ideal osseous form. So ideally the bony architecture is supposed to be like this. Architecture. Okay, you know that I am so bad at spellings. Okay, I think still we are wrong. Anyways, don't mind. So this is the ideal form. This is the ideal osseous form. That means when you look at the ideal bone morphology, you will find that there is a positive architecture of the bone, right? But what happens, say suppose if the bone morphology is not good, that means if the architecture is reversed, so it means that there is no interdental bone, in fact there is an interradicular bone. Say suppose the architecture of the bone is something like this, that interdental bone is missing. If you can see here, excuse me guys, this is quite opposite to this. If you look at the interdental bone here, there is guys no interdental bone, no interdental bone. So this particular situation makes it a negative architecture, negative architecture. Right. So guys, in this the interradicular bone is present in the negative architecture. Also sometimes we see a flat architecture. So if it is like this, then it is a flat architecture. Now we have got certain situations, guys. Say suppose if the situation is a reverse architecture is present, or if we say that angular bone loss is present, the another name can be a vertical bone loss, right? So vertical bone loss is present. Or guys, say if there are craters present, you know that what are osseous craters. So basically in osseous craters, the interdental bone is missing. You will see that so osseous crater, guys, is going to be like this. Say suppose this is a tooth. So we are seeing it from the lateral view. So guys, in case of an osseous crater, you will find only the buccal and the lingual wall. So buccal wall is present, lingual wall is present of the bone, but you will not find the interdental bone. So in crater, the interdental bone is missing. Interdental bone is missing. No interdental bone. So that is a osseous crater. Again, the osseous craters you will go for a resective osseous surgery, or say suppose if ledges are present. So if ledges are present, that means bony ledges like this. So you just have to chop off this part of the bone, and we call it the osteoplasty. So this takes me to a point, the differences between a osteoplasty as well as osteectomy. So let's just write both of these terms and try to break the terms in order to understand both of these terms. So osteo is same in both. That means we are dealing with a bone here. Guys, plasty means, I always tell you, plasty terms means that it is a kind of a plastic surgery. That means reshaping. So we are reshaping the bone. But osteectomy means, so ectomy means guys means that removal. So what is the difference out here? So osteoectomy procedure, we are dealing with the tooth supporting structure. That means the bone which is surrounding the PDL. So the tooth supporting bone. Say suppose, I am going to give you one more example out here. Say suppose guys, this is a tooth, right? Now there is a periodontal ligament, so that we understand it better. Say guys like this is a PDL. Now, and again there is a bone. So let's just draw bone like this, right? Now the same situation we are going to take the other side as well. So let's see the same situation out here. Now guys, if we are removing the bone from say this particular part like this particular bone is removed. So if you are removing this particular bone, that means there is no PDL, no periodontal ligament, no supporting structure. So the bone which is away from the tooth, if you are removing, if there is no removal of the tooth supporting bone, that means it is a osteoplasty. But if you are removing a bone like this, which is supporting which is close to the PDL area, so this particular situation makes it a osteectomy procedure. So both of these are a kind of a resective osseous surgery. So Friedman is a person who classified them as to correct the osseous defect. He said that either we can do the osteoplasty procedure or we can do the osteectomy procedure. So both can be done. So we will be talking about the procedures. So we will be talking about the 4 procedures. So in the sequence again, and in that the top 2 are the osteoplasty, the bottom 2 are the osteectomy. We will be dealing about in quite some time. So we were talking about the situations wherein we can do the resective osseous surgery, guys. So all the situations wherein we can do the resective osseous surgery is the reverse architecture. So these are, you can say, the kind of indications wherein the bone defect, wherein we have to go for the resective surgery, resective surgical procedure, resective osseous surgery. Where all we have to do, what are the indications for it, you can say. So reverse architecture is one indication. Then guys, if there is angular or vertical bone loss present, 2 wall defect present, not the shallow one, but if there the shallow and the wide defect is present, because if the defect is narrow, then we can fill it with the regenerative procedure, right? Then guys, osseous craters are present, sometime horizontal defect and the ledges, and guys also the furcation involvement. So furcation involvement and any bony contours of bulbous furcation, as well as, say suppose furcation defect. I am going to give you an example. We have already classified the furcation defect and we know that, say suppose this is a molar teeth, this is the furcation area. Sometimes we have guys studied that in class 3 furcation, we are talking about the Glickman classification, we have already covered. So there is a soft tissue, but beneath that there is no bone. So what we do is we convert this class 3 into class 4 so that there is no plaque retention. The person can nicely clean that area so that there is no plaque accumulation, there is no further periodontal involvement. So in that case we remove this part. So that also we do. And also guys, say suppose in furcation defect in class 1 or class 2 furcation defect, what we do? We make it accessible to clean. So we remove some part of the bone. We have studied that in the furcation defect. So in that case also we do the resective osseous surgery. Basically we are making it accessible to clean so that the person can effectively control the plaque, so that there is accomplishment of effective plaque control, no further periodontal involvement, and also guys, any bony contour if present, that also we do the resective osseous surgery. So any bony contour. So to create the contour that will parallel to the contour of the gingival tissues, after what happens, you do the resective osseous surgery, there is healing process, and after that the bony contour, say suppose ledges are present, say suppose if bulbous bony contours, that means some part of the bone is like this bulbous. So what you do is you make it in a really nice form, right? So that we do the remove the part of the bone. So once we remove the bone, once we finish the bone, give the contour according to the gingival tissues. So that is the last part, last stage which we will be talking about in the resective osseous surgery. So the gradualizing the marginal bone, so that is also a part of a technique of the osseous resection. So we will be talking about the 4 techniques of this resective osseous surgery. So what are these 4 techniques guys? So let's just write the techniques. But before starting with the technique, I want you to understand one more thing guys. The resective osseous surgery, it can be resective osseous surgery, it can be guys additive or subtractive. Now I am going to give you an example. This I have also covered in one of the lecture series as well. So say suppose there is a gene, okay, you have a gene span. Say suppose this is your gene span. Now what happens if there is a hole in this gene span? Say you take this gene span to the tailor. If the hole is very small, what the tailor is going to do, he is going to stitch it back with the same color thread, right? So that means he is adding up to the hole. So he is adding up something, so we call it the additive surgery. So that means, say suppose all the regenerative surgical procedures, all the reconstructive surgical procedure, that means if certain part, say suppose if there is a fenestration, say suppose if there is a window, right, if there is a fenestration, so what fenestration is just like a hole in the jeans, a small hole in the jeans, same way. So in that case a surgeon is going to put the bone graft and then suture it back, right? So remove the flap, to do the flap surgery. So we have to reflect a full thickness flap so that we can see the bone, we can access the bone easily, and then put the bone graft, put it back. So this is a kind of a additive surgery. That means we are adding up to something, right? So this is the additive surgery. Now the subtractive is, say suppose the hole in the jeans is like a big one. So the person has met some accident or something, any incident had happened, or burned with the iron. So like that there is a big hole. Say suppose you have burnt it with the iron. Now what happens, this was a brand new jeans, you have wore it once or twice, something like that. Now I don't want to throw it away. So guys, what we do is, I take it to the tailor and I tell that tailor to shorten the jeans. Say suppose this is a jeans. So I ask him to cut this part and then make it a jean short, right? So this is a subtractive. That means subtracting or removing, but it is for the betterment, because otherwise also I cannot wear this burnt, this big whole jean. So that way if I make it a short, at least I can wear this short pant. So now the subtractive also has got 2 parts. One is a definitive. We are going to go with both of the examples again guys back. So one is a definitive and another one, guys, is a compromise. So guys, definitive is, that means you have established a positive osseous form. So guys, that means the gene span, you have asked that person to tailor, or the person to cut that part of the genes, make it a short, and he has nicely given a contour to this, so that it looks like just a short. It doesn't look like that it was a gene span earlier. So he makes it so beautiful that it looks more beautiful than a gene span. And or you can wear it to the beaches, you can wear it to the malls, so outside. So that becomes a really nice shorts compared to a jean. So that means establishing a positive form. Say suppose if a bulbous bony contour is present, that means say suppose if there is a tori present, kind of, right? So there is a or if there are ledges present in the bone. So in that case, what you do is you finish it nicely, you remove this part, give a nice shape. So that is a part of a subtraction procedure, because you are removing the part of the bone, you are not adding to the bone. That is not a regenerative procedure, but still it becomes so nice that it is a kind of a useful to you. So it becomes the definitive procedure. And the compromise is when it requires a large piece of bone removal. So requiring an extensive bone removal, we call it the compromise osseous surgery. So it indicates an osseous topography which requires extensive bone removal. Why do we remove large amount of bone? Because we are looking for the long term prognosis. Some situations wherein we have to remove a large portion of the bone, because otherwise it is of no use, but later on the patient can easily maintain for the plaque control like that. So we do this kind of surgical procedure. So now you know that a resective osseous surgery is basically some changes in the alveolar bone. So basically what we are doing is we are removing the deformed bone. We are get rid of the deformities. We are get rid of the periodontal, not exactly the get rid of the periodontal disease, but we are stopping the progression of the periodontal disease, right? So basically, according to Carranza 10th edition, a resective osseous surgery is the procedure by which we do some changes in the alveolar bone, and in order to get rid of the deformities which are induced by the periodontal disease, or the process or the other related factors, like there is a exostosis say present, there is a bony contour present. So like that also we remove it with the help of a resective osseous surgery. Now you understand what is a additive, what is a additive osseous surgery, what is a subtractive osseous surgery. Additive is we are adding to the bone. So let's say just we are adding the bone, so plus bone. That means we are doing any reconstructive or regenerative procedure. See, it is very easy. Reconstructive, regenerative, that means we are generating it again, we are constructing it again. So if say suppose if there is a 3-wall defect, that means 3 walls are present, so we are just going to add 1 wall to that tooth. So that can be additive osseous surgery. Now talking about the subtractive osseous surgery, guys, when the result cannot be obtained from a regenerative procedure. Say even class 2 defect is present. I told you it is 50% chances, but if there is a shallow and a wide defect present, we cannot regenerate it. So what we have to do is we have to subtract it, we have to resect it. So that is going to be a subtractive osseous surgery. So killing what is already dying, we can say. And we have got 2 components in the resective. Again guys, see, additive example can be a bone graft. So also a GTR, which we'll be covering in some time. Right, all this is a additive. Subtractive procedure can be osteoplasty, and we have already talked about osteoplasty is, guys, when we are reshaping the bone, but we are not touching the tooth supporting bone. So reshaping the bone without the removal of the tooth supporting bone. But osteectomy is also again an example of, guys, a subtractive osseous procedure. In osteectomy also we are removing the bone, but along with that we are removing the tooth supporting bone. So in order to get the desired results. So these are the resective osseous surgery. Now at least you know that which all situations you have to remove the bone. Not always you have to put the bone graft for any osseous defect. Some situations are there wherein you have to remove the bone as well in order to get the desired results. So now we will be talking about the osseous resection techniques. So what are the techniques? There are 4 techniques, and guys you have to remember in the same sequence, because sometimes some exams they ask the sequence as well. So what are the osseous resection techniques? First one guys is the vertical grooving. So vertical grooving, what we do is we make the grooves. If you have seen or done any veneers, so what we do is, or if you have done tooth preparation also, so what we do is we first make the grooves, indentation groove. If you remember, if you have done any anterior tooth preparation, we first make grooves so that we know that this much is the tooth we have to reduce. Same way we make these grooves in the bone, right? So this is the vertical grooving. You take an instrument, either it is a round carbide burr or you are taking the hand instruments. Say suppose if you are taking an ocean beam chisel, so any chisel you are taking back action chisel or you are taking ocean beam chisel. This we have already covered in the instrumentation part as well. So if you are taking Schluger chisel, Sugarman chisel, so any of the instrument you are taking, Rongers, carbide round burr, diamond burr, or you are taking ocean beam, back action, any of the chisel you are taking, you are making the grooves is the first step. And then once you have made, guys, once you have made these grooves, say suppose this is a tooth and you have made these grooves in the bone, first of all reflect the flap and now reaching to the bone, now full thickness flap, and now that you have made these grooves, now you have to merge it like how we do in the tooth preparation. We merge it like this, right? We take a burr and up to the dent, up to the indentation what we have made it, we prepare it. So like that we take a burr and then we prepare it, we merge all these grooves is the second step. So what is our second step is the radicular blending. So basically blending all these grooves, right? So radicular blending is our second step. Now that both of these steps, you know that we haven't touched the interproximal bone. We haven't touched the tooth supporting bone. So since we have not removed the tooth supporting bone, both of these procedures are, guys, osteoplasty. Right. Talking about the third one, now we have made the grooves, we have blended the grooves like this. So blended the grooves, take a burr. Now we start with the interproximal bone. So we start from the up. So this is the flattening of the interproximal bone. Flattening interproximal bone is the third step. Guys, you have to remember this sequence. First of all, we make the grooves, then we blend the grooves. So that is the radicular blending. Then guys, we flatten this interproximal bone. Say suppose if ledges are present, if bony ledges are present. Suppose this is the tooth. Now, what happens, guys? The bony contour here is such a way that it is like this. Say like resorption is like this. So what you do is you take a burr and you nicely make it straight. So that is flattening the interproximal bone, guys. So this is our third step of the technique of our resective osseous surgery. Now talking about the fourth one. So the fourth one is, now that we have made the grooves, then we have blended the grooves, then we have flattened from the top. We do not want the bone to be flattened. We want it to give a nice contour. So we will giving a contour to the bone. So this is the gradualizing the marginal bone. So now that the marginal bone, we are giving a nice contour. So what we have to do is, say suppose, guys, this is a tooth. So like this, say this is the tooth, another tooth, and then the bone now was like this straight. Now we have to give a nice contour to the bone. We are giving a positive architecture to the bone. So the proper contouring of the bone for the maintenance, this is the gradualizing the marginal bone. So guys, flattening interproximal and gradualizing the marginal bone, both are osteotomy procedure. because we are dealing with the supporting bone, because we are reaching close to the tooth surface, reaching to the supporting bone, we are removing the supporting bone. So the flattening of the interproximal bone and gradualizing the marginal bone, both are the osteoectomy procedures. Now this you have to remember is because this is most frequently asked in the exam, which are the osteoectomy, which are the osteoplasty procedures. So this should be by heart by you. So vertical grooving, radicular blending is a plasty procedure, flattening interproximal bone and gradualizing the marginal bone is our osteoectomy procedure. Now guys, talking about the vertical grooving, which is very important. So first step is the vertical grooving in the bone, so that we reduce the thickness of the alveolar bone. So generally it is used to define the thickness of the bone. So what we are doing is we are marking this vertical lines in the bone. So we are marking these grooves in the bone, and then when we blend these grooves, that will become the radicular blending. So which all instrument do we use? Here we have this already we have covered in the instrumentation part. So here we have is the Auschen beam chisel. So this part is the cutting part of the Auschen beam chisel, and we are making these grooves with the help of this chisel. Here guys is the back action chisel. So why this name back action chisel? Because basically the action of the chisel is like this, so backwards. So that is why it is directing backward, that is why it is called as back action chisel. Basically again this back action chisel is also used guys to make these grooves. So these grooves, these lines are made with the help of these chisel. Along with that guys, we use these bone files. So we have got two kind of bone files here. So you can say interproximal files, bone files. So here is the Schluger file. So basically how will you differentiate between the Schluger and the Sugarman? So Sugarman, always remember that, sugary, very sugary, so he is straight. So if you can see here, this chisel is straight, but if you see this Schluger chisel, Schluger file, this is curved, right? So curved one is the Schluger, straight one is the Sugarman. So basically what you are doing is, you are making these vertical grooves in the bone with the help of a file, or with the help of a round burr, or with the help of a chisel, or with the help of rongers. So basically you are making these grooves, and this is the first step. When you blend these grooves, that is known as the radicular blending, and both of them are the osteoplasty procedure, because we are not dealing with the supporting bone here. So where all procedures you do this, which all procedures do you use this vertical grooving plus radicular blending, right? Very important, very, very important. So both of these, we know that both of these are osteoplasty procedures. And where do we do these procedures? Basically, say suppose if there are shallow craters present, or say suppose if bone is thick, because we are thinning the bone with the help of this, right? So thick bony margins if present, we use these procedures. So you can say that there are thick osseous ledges on bone which are present, osseous ledges on the radicular surface, because we are dealing with the radicular, not the upper part, right? So the radicular surface. Or guys, very important, class 1 and class 2 furcation, how can we forget, because we are making it accessible to clean. So class 1, early class 2, because if the class 2 is narrow and deep, then we will go for the regenerative procedure, right? So all these procedures we can use the radicular blending as well as the vertical grooving. So both of them are known as the osteoplasty. So we can use in craters, bony ledges if present on the radicular. Remember that if present on the radicular only you can do. And class 1 and early class 2 furcation defects. So these specific situations, shallow crater are present, thick osseous ledges are present on the radicular surface, and early class 2 and class 1 furcation involvement, we can do the vertical grooving and the radicular blending. And if we are talking about flattening the interproximal bone and gradualizing the marginal bone, then that is a osteectomy procedure, because it is removal of the tooth supporting bone as well. So guys, this was about the resective surgery. Now let's talk about the regeneration. So additive osseous surgery we have talked about, we are going to regain the attachment. So let's talk about the repair and regeneration. What do we mean by both of these terms? Regeneration. So first of all, let's take an example to understand both of these terms. See, suppose I have this jeans and there is a hole in this jeans. Now I take this jeans to the tailor and he is going to fix this jeans by using the same thread and stitching it. So that is known as the repair. So that means repair is defined as the healing, but there is a scar. We still can see that there was a torn up at this edge, and this is now corrected it. So this is called the repair. Now what do we mean by the term regeneration then, guys? Regeneration is, say, when this jeans is torn but we cannot fix it. I mean, it is torn in such a way that I cannot fix it and wear it. So what I do is, if I want to wear the same jeans because I really like this, I wore it like once or twice and I want the same thing. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take and buy the same brand. Same brand, say same color, same size, same color. So that is a regeneration. Now I have a brand new jeans, but it is the same jeans as it was previous, but I have not corrected it. We have just bought it like from the store. So basically regeneration is the natural renewal of the structure, and this renewal of the structure is basically, guys, from the growth and the differentiation of the new cells. So the osteoblasts, the cementoblasts, all these precursor cells, they are going to grow and differentiate and form the structure. So the growth and differentiation of the new cells, basically we are talking about the precursor cells. These precursor cells are going to form the new structure, new tissues, same as it was like previous. So this is the repair and regeneration. Now we have two more terms, guys. One is, we call it the new attachment. So what do we mean by the term new attachment? As I always tell you, you have to look at the name first to understand the term. So new attachment means we are going to give a new attachment to anything. That means, guys, we are talking about the same jeans which was torn. So we are trying to get a new attachment to this jeans which was previously diseased. So we are talking about the previously diseased tissue. So we are taking it to the tailor, he is going to fix it. So basically it is kind of a regeneration, but to a diseased part. So regeneration of a diseased structure is, we call, the new attachment. But guys, same regeneration of a non-diseased structure, is what do we call the reattachment. So to simplify the reattachment, I can just give you an example that, see, suppose I have bought a new jeans, guys. This time this jeans is not torn or anything. It's a long jeans, right? So because I have a short height, I cannot, if I wear this, it is going to look awkward. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go and ask for the alteration. So basically it is a kind of alteration. It is a new jeans. There is no disease. There is no torn up. There is no patch. Nothing. It's a brand new jeans. But I'm still gonna take it to the tailor so that it looks good. So that it is of my height. It is of, you know. So it is basically an adaptation of the gingival fibers to the sulcus. It is a kind of a repair, but there is no periodontal problem. So I can say repair in an area of root which was not previously exposed to the pocket. So this is, guys, the regeneration, reattachment. Now guys, let's talk about the GTR. So what do we mean by the term GTR? Oh ma'am, this is a really complex subtopic. We don't know. We have never understood this concept. So let's simplify this as well. Guided tissue regeneration. As the name suggests, this is a regeneration of the tissue. You can look in the name itself that it is a regeneration of the tissues. But we are guiding these tissue to regenerate. So guiding the tissues to the regenerate is basically, in simple terms, we can say the GTR, regeneration of the lost periodontal structure, is now regenerated, but it is guided. So there are selective cells which are growing, selective tissues which are repopulating in case of a wound healing process. So basically, it's a normal, guys, wound healing process. It is a regeneration. So there is a wound healing process which is normal. But what we are going to do in GTR is, we are going to guide these tissues, guide the tissues to regrow. So certain tissues we are going to regrow, certain tissues we want to restrict. So which are the tissues we want to restrict? Say suppose if there is epithelial. Say suppose in case of a healing process and the epithelial kind of dominates in the wound site. That means the epithelial cells are proliferating as a result of a healing process. Now what will happen? What are the epithelial structures in case of a gingiva? Say suppose this is a sulcus. Now what if the epithelial structures are regenerating? What will happen? This junctional epithelium, we know that this is a epithelium, right? See guys, this junctional epithelium is a epithelium. So what happens if it is gonna regrow, that means regenerate, it will become a long junctional epithelium. So if the epithelium cells predominate in the wound healing process, then there can be a long junctional epithelium. If we talk about the connective tissue, guys, so connective tissue basically help us with the formation of the matrix. And say suppose, look, now I am going to give you an example which I have already given you in one of the lecture series in periodontics. Say guys, suppose here are the epithelium, then we have the connective tissue, then guys we have the bone, and we have the period. These are some guys, okay. And here is a girl in the college. So these are the guys. This is a hot girl in the college. These are some guys. Now one guy is named as epithelium, one guy is named as connective tissue, one guy is named as bone, one guy is named as period. Say suppose this there is some new admission in that college and this girl is really pretty and she is very smart, and you know, and all of these guys wants to propose it, but this girl is very decent girl. We want that this girl should find a perfect match for herself. So this epithelial, which is kind of like a defense mechanism, right? He is into more of fights or something like that, because we know that the purpose of epithelium is, see, these are the epithelial cells. We have already talked about in the gingiva itself, guys, that epithelia will prevent the bacterial contamination into the sulcus, right? So the main purpose of the epithelium is the defense mechanism. Say suppose if this epithelial guy he gets in a relationship with this girl, she is gonna go into fights and all that, and her career will be ruined. We do not want this happen. So what we do is we create a barrier. We do not want this guy to meet this girl. So what we are gonna do is we are gonna create a barrier. So what happens if this barrier is not created? It will form into long junctional epithelium, right? Now talking about the connective tissue, there is another guy in the college. Even though he is very soft and like he loves to help others, but what happens, this guy is very short tempered. What happens if he gets pissed off or he gets angry? So otherwise he is more into the construction purpose, but if it get pissed off, there is more of a resorption which happens. So either it is going to form into the connective tissue adhesion, either it is going to adhere to the connective tissue, or it is going to form the, or it is going to make the resorption. So it can do the destruction or it can do the connective tissue adhesion. So we have to stop this guy as well. So we are stopping this guy also. So making a barrier again. Now talking about the third guy, who's the strongest among all, who's strong, rich, handsome, basically is the dude of the college. Has got money, fame, following, everything. But he is so handsome that he is used to play with girls. So what he does is, if he get engaged with this girl, again he is going to hook up with some other girl and this will break the heart of this girl. So guys, if this particular guy engaged with this girl, either there is going to be ankylosis, but there can be a resorption also. So both of them are not good for this girl. So we have to protect this girl, we have to stop this guy as well. Now guys, there is another guy who's the PDL, who's not famous, but he's like a kind of decent guy, but he's very down to earth, he has got good sense of humor, he is very helping, and most importantly he respects women and elders. So we want this guy who's not even though famous, we want this guy to hook up with this girl. So what happens when this PDL guy, once he get in a relationship with a girl, there is a new attachment, and this is what we want to happen. We want the new attachment to happen. We want to regenerate the new PDL, new fibers, new connective tissue, new epithelium, new bone. But we do not want to harm anything. So we guide this girl, we guide the PDL to meet this girl. We do not want any of the epithelium, connective tissue or bone. So basically guys, this barrier is known as the GTR. So this is a barrier or a membrane. So this is basically guys a membrane which we place it before the healing process happens. So for the healing process, we want that there should be a guided healing process. So basically this GTR is a membrane which is used to place a barrier for the epithelium, connective tissue as well as for the bone. We want that this GTR membrane, it should meet the PDL and there should be new cells which can repopulate at the root surface. So basically this GTR guys is a membrane. Again, when we are going to classify this, it can be a resorbable, it can be non-resorbable. So resorbable is if it is not working out, this guy is gonna back up, and if both of them working out nicely, then it is non-resorbable. You can say that. But resorbable is basically you don't have to do one more surgery to remove the membrane. It will resorb it on its own. So that is resorbable. Non-resorbable is guys, you have to again see, first surgery is when you are placing the membrane. Okay. After the healing process, again you have to do the surgery and remove this membrane. So that require a kind of a second surgery for a non-resorbable membrane. So basically both have got their pros and cons that we will deal. So where do we place this GTR first of all? Say suppose guys, this is a tooth surface. Now this is a tooth surface, right? Now guys, we want the PDL to grow, right? So the defect should be such that there should be a defect in the PDL. So the defect, we want this PDL to regrow, right? And we want to create a barrier. So say that this is a GTR, it is a barrier, GTR. So this particular kind of defect where we want to place the GTR is basically our vertical defects. Or in other terms, I can say that there are infrabony defects. Now again guys, vertical defects, we have just now talked about that. In the vertical defect, we also do the resective surgery, right? So the infrabony defect. So in case of deep and narrow defect, say suppose for example class 2 defect, and infrabony also class 1 defect, and early class 2 we are doing the resective surgery which we have talked about. In the class 2 defect guys, shallow and wide defect, we again do the resective. But the deep and narrow class 2 defect, we do the regenerative procedure, which we have talked about. Say suppose if there is a one wall defect, infrabony defect, then there is only one wall, we cannot reconstruct the whole room. So that is again a contraindication for a GTR. Poor hygiene is again a contraindication for GTR. Generalized horizontal bone loss is again a contraindication for GTR. If there is inadequate attached gingiva, then we cannot do any surgery. As I have told you that there are only few surgeries. For example, apically positioned flap in which we can regain the attached gingiva. So all these surgery, other than that, inadequate width of attached gingiva is majorly a contraindication of almost all the procedure except the procedure which are used to increase the width of attached gingiva, right? So also in case of class 2 defect, guys, basically class 2 furcation defect, we can place the GTR, or in case of the circumferential defects. These are the major things. Other than that, circumferential defects. We can also use for ridge augmentation, we can also use for coverage for any recession, root recession is there, or any repair of apectomy defects, or any, if we want to put any bone, say suppose osseous filling around the immediate implant, if you have placed any immediate implant and you want to put bone graft, or if you want to repair any osseous defect, if the implant is failing and you want to put any bone graft, that also we can place the GTR. So basically all these are the indications for a GTR, wherein you want to put the membrane, wherein you don't want to put the membrane. So class 2 deep and the narrow defect, we can place the GTR so that the PDL is regrowing nicely. And we are stopping this bone here, we are stopping this bone to regrow, we are stopping the epithelium, only the PDL can grow. So as I have told you, what are the materials, guys? So what are the materials for GTR? So either it is according to Gottlob, the first generation material are the non-resorbable. That means they cannot resorb on its own. We have to do a surgery to remove these materials. We have to go for a second surgery. So most important in the non-resorbable membrane is EPTFE. So what is that? PTFE is basically our polytetrafluoroethylene. If you want me to write, I can write it polytetrafluoroethylene. And E is the expanded version of that. So basically this EPTFE is our, Gore-Tex is a company which releases, which has this EPTFE, expanded polytetrafluoroethylene. Also guys, this polytetrafluoroethylene expanded version EPTFE also come with the titanium meshwork, so that if there is second surgery, second removal, there are less chances of infection and all. So it comes with a titanium membrane as well. So this is the first generation. Now let's talk about, guys, the second generation. So the second generation is our resorbable. So it is the bioresorbable. Basically this membrane, after doing its function, will resorb on its own. So after making this girl a good person or giving love, this guy is gonna fade away, like till the end or till the old age, like that you can say. So this is a bioresorbable. Now again in this we have got the natural and the synthetics. So natural are basically, for example, say connective tissue graft. So we are taking the graft, connective tissue graft, from the body itself and using it as a barrier, using it as a GTR. So this can be an example for natural. Again the collagen, which is most frequently used as a bioresorbable, can be used for a resorbable membrane. So guys, collagen, again there are so many companies, Biomed, BioGuide, Paraguide, Tissue Guide, all these brands come with a collagen bioresorbable GTR graft. Oxidized cellulose, Durameter, so all these are the, let's write these also, one second, oxidized cellulose, because that is also important. This can be again asked as a question, that which are the bioresorbable, or like that question can be asked. So the another one are the synthetic grafts. Synthetic grafts are the grafts which are not taken from the body or any tissues, which are prepared in the labs. So this can be, guys, one is the polylactic acid. So which is a synthetic polylactic acid graft. Another one is the polygalactic. So PGA I am going to write. So this is the polygalactin or polygalactic acid. I'm just going to write here galactine, because polygalactin 910 again is an example of synthetic one, and both of these can be again, so PLA plus PGA is again a bioresorbable synthetic. Now the third generation, guys, is basically, third generation is the resorbable plus the growth factors, so that there is more growth which happens. In that also again resorbable and non-resorbable. So basically resorbable with a growth factor is also used as a graft for the GTR. We also have the Duramater, right, in this. So this is about the GTR materials. Now guys, what happens? Sometimes say suppose the root surface is contaminated. So there are bacteria, any product is present, disease cementum, faulty cementum is present. Now what happens when this new attachment procedure you are trying to do is, because of the contamination, because there is the proper formation is not there, so you are not getting the proper result. So in that case you do the biomodification of the root surface. So biomodification is basically the clearing of the root surface. So you are modifying the root surface, biomodification of the root surface. So basically clearing of all the debris from the root, so that there is new attachment of the gingival tissues. And how do you achieve that, guys? How do you do it? There are certain agents for biomodifications. So what are the agents for biomodifications? Citric acid, which is the most commonly used at a pH of 1, and it is used for 2 to 5 minutes. Then we also use the fibronectin, and most frequently asked is also again tetracycline. Tetracycline, guys, is also used as a biomodification of the root. So these are the agents which are used for biomodification of roots. Very important, you have to remember this. What are the agents? Citric acid, fibronectin and the tetracycline. Now guys, let's talk about the bone graft. So we have got different kind of bone grafts, guys. If we take it from the same individual, then it is known as the autograft. Same individual, that means I am taking from my body and using it on my body. So that is known as the autograft, right? Autograft. So what are the examples for autograft? Either I can take it from the oral cavity, or I can take it outside the oral cavity. So it can be intraoral and extraoral. So let's write the intraoral first. Intraoral. In the intraoral, I can take a cortical bone. Basically we take the cortical bone. So if you are taking the cortical bone, you can take the osseous coagulum. Then guys, you can blend this and make it the bone blend. And also, like, you can take the cancellous bone marrow transplants. So cancellous bone marrow transplants, in that you can take the bone marrow of the maxillary tuberosity or any edentulous area, or you can also take it from the healing socket. Bone marrow transplants, bone swagging, basically adjacent to the defect you can take. Bone swagging, so from which the bone is pushed into the site, defective site. Or guys, you can also take it from the extraoral site, like this is the intraoral, then you can also take it from the extraoral. Extraoral can be your, see, intraoral sites are like chin, tuberosity. If any exostosis is present, you can take it from there. Tori is present, you can take it from there, and the ramus, but it is difficult to take it. So extraoral sites are basically iliac crest, which is the most important one. Then tibia, fibula, ribs also we take. Ribs. So all these are the extraoral sites. Now guys, if you take it from the genetic identical, basically identical twins, I can say, identical twins, then it is an isograft. Isograft. If you are taking from the same species, say for example Homo sapiens, basically from human beings, but not from your own body, from any other human being, so that is known as a allograft. Allograft. So this is the allograft. So examples for allograft are freeze dried bone graft, right? Freeze dried bone graft. Basically the bone graft is freezed and it is dried. So what you do is demineralize the bone in the cold. So you are freezing it, and then you are using the diluted HCl and then exposing the components of the bone matrix, and then they are closely associated with the collagen fibers and then makes the BMPs. So also you can use the demineralized, freezed this bone graft. So basically this demineralized, freezed dried bone graft, you can also take that. So freeze dried bone graft is basically, guys, you are freezing it. So what happens, you take this cortical bone, say suppose any donor person is there, you take the cortical bone, so within 12 hours you have to use this. So you are going to remove the fats, so defatting it, cutting the cortical bone into pieces and washing into the alcohol, and then you are freezing drying this bone graft. So that is known as freeze dried bone graft, or frozen. Basically you are taking a frozen bone. Simple words, we can put it that way. Also guys, you can use the synthetic as well. So I'm gonna okay, let's just take the, first of all take the natural sources. So different species, if you take, say suppose you are taking it from pig or any other individual, not the human being. So different species is your xenograft. Xenograft. So xenograft is your bovine. If you are taking from the like bovine derived bone, it is the bio-os. Then guys, if you are taking from a calf bone, it is hard to find a calf bone again. This is a bow plant. Then if you are using from a calf bone or ox bone, or if you are denaturing it with a 20% hydrogen peroxide, then it is known as the keel bone, right? Or there are many also, porcine derived, or there are like that many other xenografts. So basically bio-os and then calf bone, keel bone, all are these xenograft. So these are from some species you are taking, right? What about the synthetic one? So the synthetic, okay, we have the space here, we can write guys here, synthetic graft. Synthetic graft are known as the alloplast. So in the alloplast we have got hydroxyapatite. Basically this hydroxyapatite is calcium and phosphorus, right, in the ratio of 1.67, which is basically close to the normal bone. So this is a hydroxyapatite is a non-bioresorbable. Then guys we have tricalcium phosphate. So TCP, tricalcium phosphate. Let's write it, tricalcium phosphate. We also use it as a synthetic bone material, beta form of the tricalcium phosphate. So beta tricalcium phosphate we see. So this tricalcium phosphate, we see the calcium and phosphate ratio, which is 1.5. So it is close to, I mean the mineral content is close to the beta Wittlockite. This TCP is the least partially bioresorbable. Also like that we use the calcium cement phosphate or bioactive glass. Bioactive glass also you use it as a alloplast. So these are the alloplast. So alloplast are hydroxyapatite, tricalcium phosphate, beta form of tricalcium phosphate, hydroxyapatite in the ratio of 1.67, tricalcium phosphate, calcium phosphate ratio 1.5. So this is the hydroxyapatite. So this video guys, we have covered resective osseous surgery, we have covered the regenerative surgery, in that we have covered the GTR, we have covered the agents for the biomodification of the root surface, the citric acid, fibronectin, tetracycline, most commonly citric acid, which we use at the pH of 1 for 2 to 5 minutes. Then we have covered the bone graft as well. So this is a very important lecture for your exam viewpoint. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. You have understood the whole concept of the GTR, and if you want to watch in detail about all these videos, then we have separate video in the playlist. You can also watch that. I hope that you have enjoyed the video. So if you have enjoyed the video and if you have understood the concept, then give it a thumbs up. Also you can comment in the comment section below, because this motivates me to put more videos for you and to make free notes for you guys. So guys, you can also support me on the Paytm as well as on PayPal to make free videos for you and to make free notes. So till then, keep reading, keep learning, stay motivated. I'll see you soon in the next lecture.